This plane has taken me almost 3 years to make, and it's finally done. Let's dive in. Last time we left off infilling the infill plane. Today we're going to do all the little detail work, and it seems like, oh yeah, we're really close because we just need to do the detail work. But when it comes to a plane like this, the detail work is like 60 to 70% of the work, and so there is a lot of work on here, particularly with all the peening from the dovetails and the rivets that went through the side. We need to grind those off and make them smooth, and I thought maybe I'd take them over to the sandpaper and do it like I would flatten a plane, but that was actually taking a long time. They need a lot more work, so I have a very coarse rasp and file that will take off the majority of the work and grind it down relatively flat and smooth. This is going to leave a lot of little scratches and nicks in there, but that's not a problem because then we can come into the finer file and get rid of those, and then with a finer file and get rid of those. And we're going to actually do a lot of the smoothing of the corners, which I'll get to in a minute. But once we get most of these scratches down, then we can take it over to the sandpaper and really start going to it. And so I'm going to start with this, which was at this is 100 grit, and then we'll go up to something more, and I'm going to take it up to about 400 grit. These are sandpaper belts. They're belt sanders that you just cut, lay them out flat. Works really well. Then there's a lot of little transition pieces where we want to smooth the brass into the wood, and particularly along the front, we're going to round that over. And because we're working on the brass, it's going to take a lot of grinding down, but we want to get a nice, smooth, clean transition there. I'm going to come in with a smaller file and do a lot of the little detail work. I don't want any of the sharp edges, and I want to grind everything down and just kind of smooth it and make it feel good to the hand. Also, at some of the transitions to the wood, there will be a tight corner in there, and so it's really useful to come in with a card scraper and scrape into the corner. You want to be very careful not to run into things you don't want to run into, and just kind of play along with it. It's one of these things where you can spend a lot of time on this step, and I decided to actually leave in a few flaws and details. I could have spent the time to really grind them out and make it absolutely perfect, but I kind of like seeing that human element of little flaws and things that come in here. On the chip breaker, I needed to do a little bit more work on it and smoothing it out before I fit it in, but we actually want to attach that on. And so for that, I'm going to lay out marks on either side. Where is it going to fit into? Because we're going to be bolting it into place. Traditionally, you would put a rod through, but I like actually putting the bolts in so you can take them out. That way you can make any adjustment in the future. Yes, I know I'm using a demon-possessed yellow brace, but when drilling through this, it's actually pretty quick. However, for chamfering it out, I found it just faster and easier to use the brace. It worked out fairly well for that. I want to chamfer it out for the head of the screw, which we'll be getting to in a little bit. So I can put the chip breaker in there and then mark exactly where it transitions with these holes, and then I'm going to drill all the way through the chip breaker from one side to the other. Thankfully, this is bronze, and it actually drills out really quickly. It's a relatively simple wood. So I'll go from one side and then come to the other side and meet in the middle, and then we're going to tap it out with a 1/4-20 tap. And this will allow me to put the bolt in from either side to lock it in place. If I want to, I can put a little bit of thread locker in the bolt so it doesn't work its way out. And so I'm going to test it with this one, and sure enough, look at that, it threads right in. So I had to go to McMaster and actually get the nice ones that I want with the hex bolt in there. And now that it's fitting in, we can start doing a lot more of the little detail work. And I want to go with that brushed look. So I'm using some 300 grit and smoothing it out with that. And then I'm going to come in with a Scotch-Brite pad and put in the actual brush marks with this. And so I'm really going back and forth on little things and seeing what comes out and what doesn't. I actually had these left over from, they don't fit mine, and so they actually work out really well. Being a 400 grit, they give me that nice look I'm looking for on here. At this point, I'm still thinking I'm going to polish it, and so I'm getting it close and trying to get rid of the scratches, and then I come in with a polish. But after polishing, I realized, let's put in some brush marks in there. I'm going to cut in these chamfers large enough so that the head sinks in and goes flush to the outside. And this leaves a small burr on the inside, so we need to clean that off. And what I like is using a deburring tool. We'll see that in a moment. But you can see how the head will go in and then be flush and smooth at the outside. And I really like that look. It pleases me greatly. Here's the deburring tool, which comes in and allows you to clean those out very quickly. And it's a fantastic tool if you're going to be doing any woodworking. Going to be using a little bit of the oxide on the buffing compound, and let's take it on there and see what it looks like. And ooh, yay, it shines up really nicely. But then after looking at it and doing a full side, I thought, you know what? I don't know. There's something about the high polish that just doesn't please me as much. And so I decided to go back and actually brush it in. But it is very pleasing, and the future owner may want to do that. So I'll leave it up to him. If he wants to go and polish it, great. It's his tool. He can do whatever he wants to. But for me, after seeing it all polished up, I thought, no. The nice thing is with the bronze and the brass, they really shine up nicely, and you can make them look really pretty very, very easily if you want that. And it was at this point I realized, yeah, no, let's do a little more detail work. Also, when polishing it up, you'll see lots more scratches and things that come out that you just didn't see before. And so sometimes I will come into the file and sandpaper and clean those out, and then take it back and polish it, and then go back and do it again. You kind of go back and forth and see what comes out. At this point, I realized, no, let's do the brushed look. So I got the Scotch Brite pad, and I like how that just gives it a little bit of a texture to it, and that really made me happy. That little bit of scratching on there, I like that. It is a much more pleasing surface to me. I know a lot of people are going to want to brush it up, and honestly, I don't like that. I want to actually start cleaning this up, and before we get into any of the finish and other things, I want to wipe off any dust from the polishing. So a little bit of denatured alcohol on a rag allows you to clean it up and smooth it down pretty. Since I got this done, and I still want to do some more work on the wooden body, I'm going to put some painter's tape on here and use this to protect the brass. So that I don't mess it up while sanding and detailing the body. So I'm going to come in through with sandpaper, and sandpaper makes it very easy to see where there are some scratches still left, and really kind of detail it down. But then you can come in with a file and remove more material very quickly, and then go back to the sandpaper, and I'll go back and forth, and I end up, with this one, I ended up doing about a 400 grit for the last sanding on there. It kind of clogs the pores with dust, and especially on this 500-year-old white oak, the grain on it just explodes with color because it can soak it in so much. And yeah, so let's put it together, and you can see how this knob is long on here. We're going to cut it down. So I'm marking off how much do I need to take off, and then we can take it over and cut it off. Then I want to file the end off and give it a little bit of a chamfer so that it isn't rough and doesn't scratch up the blade underneath. The blade underneath is a Zenwu iron, which in my testing, they're absolutely some of the best. They are a little pricey, but you get what you pay for. They are absolutely amazing iron, and especially in this, oh my word, yes. I was having so much fun with this. I made so many curls because it feels right. The plane has a good weight to it, and it's smooth, and it feels so happy. Yeah, I had a lot of fun playing with this, but now it's time to oil it. Oh yeah, happiness. Homemade boiled linseed oil. Let's soak it in here and see what it does. The combination of the sanded surface just soaking this in and the old wood just soaking up a ton of it, you get this really amazing transformation between the grains. And oh yes, and especially on this cherry, this is actually a piece that came out of the woods behind my house. If you can't tell, I absolutely love this thing. It was so pleasing to me. Now, I could have spent a lot more time on this, really detailing it down and smoothing it out, but I chose to leave some of those imperfections, some of the little scratches in there, extra dent marks, because this was a lot of work for me and was a whole story behind it. But when it's all said and done, I'm in love with it. And this was an incredible fun project with a lot of learning experience. This made me very happy. There you have it. The infill plane is finally done, and I am in love with this. The only downside is I don't get to keep it. I actually send this off to the person who owns it. I promised him I would make it almost 3 years ago, and I finally got it done. So I keep my promises. It just might take a little time to make. This was made from a St. James Bay kit, and this is the third video in the series. I'll leave a link to the whole series down below. We will have a video coming out soon where I'll do the whole thing at once. So if you want to see that, stay tuned. But yeah, I'm loving this thing. It has such a weight to it, and it just feels good in the hand, and it's got all the fun and bells and whistles with the Zenwu iron in there. And this is, yeah, if you can't tell, I'm very, very happy. This is very, very pleasing, and I love how this came out. So I hope the new owner really enjoys it as much as I do, and I'm looking forward to maybe in the future I'll make one for myself. So stay tuned. If you have any questions, though, thoughts, ideas, snide remarks, or things that I could have done better, please let me know down below. I do love reading through those, and I answer as many of those questions as I can get to. really helps out the channel, because commenting down there, even if you just put comment down below, thank you, that helps us out. Or you can be really cool, amazing, benevolent, gorgeous, and really beautiful by joining these people over here. Those are some of the patrons on Patreon. Because between patrons and members, people who've clicked the thank you and the join button down below, you guys are the ones who keep this channel going. You allow me to buy all the parts for this, because I have quite a bit of money into this thing. So if you'd like to help out with that and provide for the channel and help us grow, then think about becoming a patron or member. You know what to do with those, description down below. I think that'll do it for now. And until next time, have a wonderful day. This is not a plane. This is most definitely a fancy